Hey, Bubs, raise your hand if you want to hum the music because we're having issues with that. Bubs, yes! The do 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 do.
How long am I supposed to do this?
No, we didn't think this through. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Garden Revival BBQ. Garden Revival is an international gardening community. We record the episodes live on our Discord server. Join our community on gardenrev.com/discord. We're all loyal plant servants and we wouldn't have it any other way. In the first half of today's episode, we'll be talking about the foliage plant that delight and fascinate us right now. It's a veritable foliage fiesta. In the second half of the episode, our panel of experts will answer server members' BBQs. That's big burning questions. I am your host, IG, the very indecisive gardener. Co-hosting with me is succulent waterer Space Butler.
Oh yeah, I did it just last week. I watered a succulent.
Once in a blue moon.
A little bit more than that, but irregularly.
Our panel of experts today is Ecologists Passiflora.
Aloha.
Aloha. That's state inappropriate being up there in
country inappropriate too.
Yeah, country inappropriate too. In the old Canada. And professional gardener Zappy Snaps.
Hi.
No aloha?
Well, it sounded like Passi had that covered, so.
It did. How are you guys doing?
Doing okay.
Doing pretty good over here. I just wrapped up a 12-hour workday.
Oh no!
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Buddy.
You gonna be loopy?
I'm getting caffeinated, so I think I should be good.
I'm kind of curious about a loopy Passi. I don't know, might be fun. All right, let's jump into the foliage fiesta. We have a kind of an interesting approach to this. We're not going to split plants into house plants, outdoor plants, shade plants. We are gonna look at some interesting characteristics that plants have and try to cover the gamut with those. What's our first category, Space Butler?
Well, I know lots of people like this one. It's big foliage. The bigger, the better.
I like big leaves, and I cannot lie. Passi, what you got for us?
Oh, for the big leaves, I think as far as big leaves go, I'm kind of split. I got two that I think are my favorites. One of them, I don't actually know the pronunciation, so I'll just say it confidently, and then it sounds like I do.
Yep.
Colocasia gigantea.
Oh, yeah.
Or Bulbophyllum phalaenopsis. I'll post photos of both because they're both actually pretty awesome. The first one, Thailand giant, the leaves grow up to, I think it's 5 feet long and 4 feet wide. And for anybody who doesn't use freedom units, that's like just shy of 2 meters long and a little over 1 meter wide. So those things are stupid. And then my other really big favorite one, Bulbophyllum phalaenopsis, it's the largest leaved orchid. So here's what they look like. That's not a photo of me. But aside from having huge leaves, they also have a really putrid flower.
That's delightful.
The flower's description has been described as, I think in official descriptions, it's something like 1,000 rotting elephants under the desert sun.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
I'm going to pass on that one.
It's a popular houseplant, I assume.
So popular.
Especially for dorm rooms.
Yes.
Oof.
This orchid
covers the smell
can
of
make
other things.
buildings get clean.
Exactly. Don't like the smell of your roommate? No longer an issue.
Honestly, I would get it, and then right when I notice it's about to flower, I would see if I could get someone I don't like to house it for me and go and
Oh my.
Wow.
Devious.
Thinking ahead.
So yeah, those are my top two.
Zappy?
Well, I also kind of have two, but I'm not sure if it's Gunnera or Gunnera, but there's this really awesome plant. And it has huge leaves that are like 6 feet across or 2 meters across. And it looks basically like a giant rhubarb that has like spikes on its stalks. And so it's these magnificently huge leaves, and they are held up too. So they're taller than, people are in
That looks
general.
amazing. That looks
Right.
like, Jurassic Park plant.
And this is always a bonus for me. There's at least one species of it where you can eat it like a rhubarb. You just have to peel the spikes
No
off.
way. No way.
Yeah. I have not actually done this yet.
Feel like one of them would last you for a week.
Yeah.
True. You could also maybe make a cute outfit out of it. It's pretty big.
It looks photoshopped. That doesn't look real.
I have seen them in real life and they are awesome. I just have not grown one in my own yard yet. That's like one of my plants that is on the list. But
Do they grow in the Pacific Northwest?
They do. It's so
lucky
cool. Right? Like, yeah. So if you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, both Tacoma and Portland are pretty fond of putting them in their public parks. So you'll be like going around a park in Tacoma and there'll be this monster plant and you're like, that does not look like it's from around here. And you're correct. It's not. So
no power move there.
Yeah. No, I think there's something really fun about living here in the Pacific Northwest around Seattle. And, all our native plants, like most of them have pretty small leaves. Your cedars, you've got your big leaf maples, whatever. And then you just walk past someone's yard and there's this giant, tropical looking plant. And you're like, whoa. So that's always fun. And then my second big leafed plant that I actually have one of is bananas. And like they're not as big, or at least my banana leaves are not as big. Like they are not 6 feet long. But still, if you get next to a full-grown banana tree, like the first time I did that, I was really surprised by how big those leaves were. Like I probably shouldn't have been, but like those leaves are really big.
It's nice to not be the biggest thing in the garden for a change, huh?
Well, I have a lot of trees around me, but those leaves, they're so awesome.
Looks amazing.
Okay, next up is the flip side. We've got the big foliage. Now we want the tiny foliage.
Zappy?
For me, the smallest foliage plants I think about, my brain immediately goes to an aquarium plant that is like super underappreciated, which is called duckweed. And there's a relative of duckweed called Wolfera or something like that, which is absolutely tiny. Like the head of a pin, like it's like a millimeter across. And
wow.
Yeah, like seriously tiny. And I remember reading, but this was like more than a decade ago. I remember reading that it was the tiniest angiosperm. So the tiniest flowering plant. Now that was like a decade ago, so I'm not sure if that's still true because maybe we found something tinier. But yeah, there's this teeny tiny little plant. It has a teeny little flower. So that's what springs to my mind for tiny foliage.
I love how you say foliage.
Well, good. And then for outdoors, I really like Corsican mint because I feel like when most people think mint, they think, oh yeah, that scourge that's going to invade your entire garden, right? But Corsican mint is super tiny and super cute. Like it grows like a quarter inch, a centimeter tall. And
I
it's got
really want to try that.
tiny little flowers, and it just makes this really dense green carpet. And then you walk across it, and it is the strongest mint smell. Like it just wafts up. So I like it. It's cool.
And you don't have to worry about it spreading as aggressively?
I mean, it's a pretty delicate sort of plant. So it'll like fill in around cracks around bricks and that sort of thing, but it's not going to like strangle anything. You know, it's not like most mint.
Right, because we're always like, don't plant mint in the ground. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice we ever give on the server.
Yeah. Well, and I think that in general is fair. But this mint is super tiny. It's got super tiny little roots and super tiny little stems. So, like, really, if you wanted to get rid of it, you could just scrape your shovel along the surface. And
well, now I just feel sorry for it.
But it also transplants really well. So I've actually, one of my clients asked me to pull some out because it was like growing past the bricks and they weren't quite fond of that. So I took it home and I, put it in the ground and now it's growing. So I'm quite happy with that. Free plants.
Do you eat it?
I haven't because it's tiny. I'm assuming you could since it's a mint, but judging from how strong it smells, I'm gonna go. How strong it smells, I assume it also tastes extremely strong. So let me.
You've got to try this. Ignore some gamer girl. Their advice inside of the event chat. You got to try this and tell us what it's like.
We expect a report tomorrow.
It is like an extremely strong mint, breath mint. Yeah, definitely stronger than normal mint.
Any chance we could persuade your husband to pop outside and get you a little to try on air?
Oh no, I just did.
Oh!
I thought you had heard my door. No, I walked out and grabbed some. Yeah, it's a really strong breath minty sort of mint. It also, if anyone's familiar with pennyroyal, it tastes a bit like that smells, but not super strongly. Yeah.
I'm not, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's super strong. I think other mints taste better, and you get more from the same effort of harvesting it because it's so tiny.
There you go, our own food reviewer. We have a new segment, folks.
Hopefully that won't be the last we hear.
Well, we'll probably be here for another hour, so we'll keep an eye on Zappy. Make sure she doesn't slur her speech.
I'm pretty confident, although I could Google it.
When I saw the smallest foliage, I wanted to go on a technicality, because I'm a jerk.
You're not.
Who I am.
No.
And so I said cacti.
No, you said cacti, LOL.
Yeah, and I'm not saying cacti because of the people who are like, they've taken a botany course or 2 or 5 and they know that spines are modified leaves. No, not talking about that. Okay. All cacti have leaves. All cacti have leaves, and they either shed them or they're super reduced to the point where they're only like a couple cells. Okay.
Oh my god.
But all cacti have leaves. And so that's where I'm going with that one, because there are some cacti species that have like a quote unquote leaf. Okay, botanically it's a leaf, but it's like 2 or 3 cells.
That's insane.
Yeah, and so I'm going with that one because it's hilarious and it's a great technicality.
Oh, you think that's hilarious? Wait until you hear mine. You ready?
I am ready.
Oh my god, Mulenbeckia, look at her leaves. They're so small. Crickets! No laughter! Oh my god! I thought I would kill, but nope.
I'm too tired.
Okay.
I'm too tired. Don't bully me.
So this plant is called a wire vine because it's kind of wiry and it has tiny little leaves going off of it. And first time I saw it, I was just like entranced by it. It's so cute. I saw it in a container, but it's actually a ground cover that's native to New Zealand and some parts of Australia. And what got me, basically my mind was blown, is that it is hardy in my zone 6.
Ooh, whoa.
I cannot believe it. Like, either the internet is wrong or this is magic.
One way to find out.
Yeah, well, I've done this with Creeping Jenny where I plant it in soil and then, with the intent of having more next year, and then it just like goes bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of thinking of doing that, trying that. Very excited about this little experiment.
Yeah, do it.
And the other one is, pronouncing things is hard.
Super freaking cute too, I'm not gonna lie. Just looking at the photos now.
Is Ocimum minimum or Ocimum basilicum variety minimum. It is bush basil or Greek basil, and it's this adorable little boxwood shape that just naturally grows into a boxwood shaped ball with leaves that look like boxwood leaves.
Super cute.
And I planted one. Well, I planted lots this year, but I have a picture of one that I planted. It's not mature yet, but it's so cute. I don't know how I'm going to eat it. It's just too cute. It's supposed to taste like Italian basil, but how would I ruin the perfect little sphere?
You can't. You just can't.
Just can't. I'm going to have to just enjoy looking at it. There
you have to get a second one for eating and one for looking.
Well, I think I have about 10, so I guess I could have a sacrificial basil. So those are my entries into the tiny leaf category.
All right, we're on to fuzzy foliage. Passi, you want to go first on this one?
Sure. I think I went with the classic one that I think most people think of when they think of fuzzy foliage, which is lamb's ears, because they are so freaking soft and just like if you ever get a chance to feel one, it's like a hug for your hand.
Aww.
They're just the best.
Yeah, I feel like I put down the same thing too, so I'm gonna have to go to a backup, which is Tradescantia fuzzy bunny bellies.
Oh my god, that sounds amazing!
So it's pretty cute. It honestly is pretty cute, and it is surprising because like you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's kind of fuzzy, but it's probably not going to be that fuzzy and soft. Touch it and you're like, this is really soft and fuzzy. So.
It's really called fuzzy bunny bellies?
It's either that or fuzzy baby belly or
Oh, I see. Baby bunny bellies. I see.
There we go.
Oh my god.
That's a ridiculous name.
That's a ridiculous cute name.
But like, yeah, it's super soft and fuzzy. I've had, I've gone to plant swaps and people have been like, well, what do you have? That's interesting. I'm like, well, feel this. And they're like, what? Because it doesn't look like it should feel the way it does. Like, it's just so soft. So yeah, that was my selection.
Lovely. Bubs is asking, are plants fuzzy for a reason?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I feel like that's a Passi question.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of reasons why any plant could get like fuzzy kind of adaptations. What typically happens is they'll develop these things called trichomes, which can be unicellular or multicellular. little adaptations where it's essentially like a little, almost like a hair, but it's just a structure on the leaves. And what they do is a huge number of things. I shouldn't say what they do because they do an unbelievable amount of things for plants. But one of the things that trichomes can do is they can help hold air kind of around the leaf and prevent air from moving quickly around the leaf. And that causes the air that's around the leaf, let's say, if it's in a really dry environment, it can keep the air around the leaf a little bit more moist because as the plant is kind of breathing in and out of its stomata, it's losing water to the air. But if the air is being held around the leaf, then it's losing less water to the environment.
Huh.
And then trichomes can do so many other things too. Like some trichomes, like in orchids, for example, there's like food trichomes where the flowers develop actual little, like, essentially trichomes for feeding pollinators to come to them.
I was as excited about the fuzzy orchids.
I don't think it's necessarily fuzzy, those trichomes. They're just like they're a little bit different in their structure. There's also like defensive trichomes, things like tobacco. It produces nicotine in its roots, and then it shuttles that nicotine into its trichomes, and that acts like a pesticide. And then there's other ones too, like cannabis. It produces a bunch of different compounds which act like a sunscreen, and it produces them in its trichomes. So they have a whole bunch of different purposes.
Cool. Is it my turn?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. My selections are Plectranthus lemon twist. It's a plant I bought this year to try in a container. And it's got these velvety leaves that grow to, I would say, probably 4 inches in size. And they feel amazing. And I also, you know me, I love the variegation. They have their green leaves with a white and chartreuse margin. And I love chartreuse, unlike Passi. It's supposed to be a spiller plant in containers, I've read, but the stems are incredibly thick and sturdy, so I can't imagine that happening. But it's a plant that I have really enjoyed, and I'm going to try to overwinter. It's in the
Ooh.
mint family, so it is robust. And the other plant I want to talk about is Salix candida iceberg alley. It's not a plant that was on my radar at all with my new garden that I'm starting. I feel like I looked into every plant in existence and I was so wrong. I just ran into this plant and I was like, it's so soft, I must buy it. It is the sage leaf willow and it's a shrub with fuzzy leaves, which is kind of interesting. And it is incredibly cold hardy down to zone 2, but only up
Wow.
to zone 6. So you guys in warmer climates may not be able to grow it. And it grows 3 to 6 feet tall and wide. So right now it's struggling to stay a foot tall and wide because of bunnies. It is not bunny proof, apparently. So that's a bummer. What's next, Space Butler?
So next on the list is something similar. It's fun to touch foliage. So fuzzy stuff is fun to touch, but this is stuff that's fun to touch in other ways, maybe.
Oh, what other ways are there? Is that a giggle? I hear a giggle.
That was a giggle. I had a really bad. I was like, stinging nettle. No.
Oh,
brain.
no.
Stop.
No, that is my childhood nemesis.
Time to change my answer.
Yeah, so let's not go with that. I think everyone knows sensitive plant, right? Maybe not.
Yeah.
I feel like most people do, though. You touch it and the leaves fold up, and they fold up pretty quick. That's fun.
That's
I just
Mimosa pudica. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, I think so. I just think any plant that does something when you touch it is fun. That's why my brain went to nettle, apparently. So there's that. There's the sensitive plant, and then there's weeds like shotweed. When I'm not the one who's responsible for it, and I'm not the one who has to pull it out, I think shotweed's really kind of funny.
Is that the same as hairy bittercrust?
Yes. Because,
that's tough for those of you who are lucky enough not to have encountered it. When the seed is ripe and you touch the plant, it explodes out.
It does, and
at high velocity, and you really feel it.
It's fun to touch if it's not in your garden. I guess.
Exactly, like when I'm not
in your enemy's garden.
When I'm not responsible for it, it just makes me laugh that there's this plant that if I poke it, it's going to shoot me. With these tiny little seeds.
I will say, for people who want to grow that Mimosa pudica with the touch-sensitive leaves, okay, they love sunlight, they love fertilizer, and they like their soil to stay pretty moist. They're super needy as far as that goes, which is why I don't think that they're a great house plant, because they're hard to keep happy indoors, because they love sunlight. Just a heads up. I've grown way too many. Like way too many of those things.
Are you just a glutton for punishment?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I think for that question I actually also put the sensitive plant, the Mimosa pudica, just cuz like it really is just the most fun touch plant. There's other plants that are fun to touch too, you have like Venus flytraps, but those traps only last, like, I think a couple closing and openings. So, like, if you keep touching it, you're just going to ruin the plant.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
I shouldn't say a couple. I think it's, like, around 3 or 4 times that they'll close and reopen.
Yeah.
But, like, they're not permanent. It's not like a Mimosa pudica where you can just touch it over and over and over again. And if it stops responding, you just wait an hour or two and then it'll, you can touch it and it's just back to closing.
Cool. All right, I picked a plant too for this one, and it is Artemisia schmidtiana silver mound. And I have this plant, and it feels like the softest kitty. It's amazing. It doesn't look soft. It looks kind of prickly, but it is silky. It is just the most silky softness ever.
Ooh.
I love it. I had it in a window box, which it got kind of leggy in because it wasn't getting enough sun. So I would definitely recommend planting it in full sun. And then if you're ever feeling down, come and pet it. Just sit down next to it and have a little self-care. It's also very hardy. So this plant, because it is so cold hardy, it is actually evergreen in warm climates in the winter. So that's another cool benefit of this plant. What's next, Space Butler?
All right, so we're on to another sense here. We're going to the nose for scented foliage.
I mean, I did just talk about how Corsican mint is so smelly, but I don't think that's my favorite. I think this is funny. I actually really love the tomato smell, like the tomato leaves. Because like you brush it and it just smells like the best tomato ever. But that might be a little weird, so I'm also going to say the scented geraniums.
Oh,
because those are amazing.
Yes, I picked those too.
Like, yeah, I'll let you talk about them.
Oh, no, it's fine. Go ahead.
You love them so much. I just think it's so cool because they smell so good and they're so fragrant and yeah, they're just neat. I think they're just neat.
Okay, on the topic of the tomatoes smelling lovely when you touch them, today I came across a wild tomato species here.
Ooh, what?
Which is super cool. Solanum trifoliatum, I think. And I was like, oh man, this is so neat. Like, snapping a whole bunch of photos because I'm cool like that. And all of the photos on my phone are just plants. And I decided like, I wonder if this has the tomato smell, right? And so I like grab one of the leaves and I kind of just manhandle it a little bit. And it was the most putrid smelling thing I have smelled in a long time.
Oh, no.
I used so many alcohol wipes and just like hand disinfectant to try and like burn the skin off to get the smell to go away. And it's been like 8 hours and my hands still smell like just awful.
Oh no.
It smells like burning rubber. It's so bad.
Oh,
wow.
Did these plants produce fruit like the tomatoes that we're used to?
So they do. Actually, I could even post a photo. So they do produce fruit, and I guess it's edible. I'm not gonna try it because solanum on the whole, I don't like to
In
play
general,
games with
it's
that
not very
either.
friendly to humans.
yeah.
Yeah, it's typically pretty horrifying. So here's a little photo of its cute little flower.
Oh,
And
that looks so harmless.
and here's a photo of its little fruit. And I guess the fruits on this guy, they do stay green
Wow.
even when they are mature.
Well,
Yeah, super nice looking, but yeah,
That does look like a
that's
tomato.
absolutely putrid smelling plant. Don't
Wow.
recommend rubbing it.
Should I even ask if the fruit is edible?
I picked a fruit, but I don't know if it is or not, and I'm not gonna try it.
Yeah, that's probably safe.
Yeah. Because it's like the same
Yep.
genus as some other horrifying plants like henbane and whatnot. So no thank you.
Nightshades overall I find terrifying.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we eat them.
I love potatoes.
I do love potatoes so much.
Honestly, it's especially when it comes to things like potatoes. How many times did people have to try eating different parts of this plant before they found the part of the plant that won't mess you
I
up?
think about that often about plants.
Even potato seeds are super toxic for you if you're starving. And that's like the one part of the plant above the ground where like you can eat it sometimes. So it's just like, how did people just kept trying?
Yeah, I wonder at what cost. I don't know what intelligent creature has been stealing my tomatoes. My mom keeps asking me how my tomatoes are, and I'm like, well, there aren't any ripe. But then I went and I made some videos, and then the next day it came out, and I'm like, wait a minute, this had one that was almost ripe, and now there's nothing there.
Either squirrels or Space Butler.
No, it's definitely not Space Butler. He doesn't eat tomatoes. Yeah.
That is
but what's smart enough to eat tomatoes and not the leaves not even damage the leaves?
I feel that the part that's weird to me is that there aren't any chunks left behind, because I have heard many stories of deer coming and eating the tomatoes or squirrels or whatever else, but there's nothing left behind, which makes me question.
Which makes you think it's Homo sapien childus?
I mean, hopefully not.
We'll have to get a security camera to find the tomato nappers.
Gardening keeps getting more and more expensive.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess it's time for me to talk about those scented pelargoniums.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they come in lots of flavors. More than Apple computers used to come in.
Ooh.
Not a joke I planned, but maybe that one works better than the Mulenbekia joke. Maybe not. So no.
For anyone who's maybe 35 or older.
Oh crap! That's right. I forgot this has to be child friendly. Okay, what were they called? Those iMac
G3s.
Right, iMac, yes. And they came in different flavors.
They did over 20 years ago. That's correct.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Googling this. Should I? Is it okay to Google this on hotel Wi-Fi?
It's iMac G3. You'll see
yeah, these things. I remember these.
Oh good. I thought I was ancient.
These are great.
Are they the ones that they made like colors?
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
I never saw one in real life, but I did see the ads for them.
Space Butler, can we have a picture in event chat?
Yeah.
Thank you. There we go. Oh, I remember those looking way cooler.
Oh, you didn't post the rainbow?
Oh, the classic rainbow.
Yeah, do the
shot.
rainbow.
Um,
Those were the most coveted computers. Oh yeah, there it is.
There we go. Yeah,
High
school
tech of
computer
high
lab was
tech.
all these.
Yes, that is the computer Jesus used, correct. Oh yeah, that's a nice shot. So pelargoniums don't come in that many colors, but they do come in lots of flavors, so to speak. They can be scented like roses, like pine, citronella, lemon, apple, coconut, mint, and lots of other things actually too.
Huh.
And they are very easy to propagate from cuttings, which is a reason that I needed some more grow lights this winter. It's just they grow fast and they're easy to propagate. And I bring them in the fall. They're only hardy at the coldest to zone 9, some of them to zone 10. So I bring them in the fall, and they're they get quite massive. The bottoms, the base gets kind of woody, and you can actually make bonsai out of them or train them into a topiary. So I end up cutting it down to basically stubs. So there's a lot of material to propagate, and I just can't bear to throw it away. So the one that smells like rose is Pelargonium graveolens. It's used in the perfume industry to sometimes supplement scent extracted from roses because this is a little cheaper, and sometimes just used straight up for things like soap. And then there's Pelargonium citrosum, which a lot of times I see it referred to as mosquito plant or citronella plant on the server, but it is not the citronella plant that the citronella oil is extracted from, which is Symbopogum nardus. I'm just going to pretend I know what I'm talking about here because I don't know how to pronounce anything.
Hey, that's my job.
No, you actually know what you're talking about.
Clearly.
But yeah, the citronella one has some of the same chemicals, and people think that you can use it to repel mosquitoes, but in fact you cannot. There have been studies done where people were sprayed with DEET versus people that were sprayed with water, and people that were seated next to the pelargonium. And not only did the mosquitoes land on the people, they also landed on the pelargonium. They did not mind it one bit. So, PSA with that one. The other plant I wanted to talk about is Helichrysum italicum, which I cannot pass up talking about this because it smells like curry. It is also a silver leaf plant, which I'm a big fan of, and I'm going to be talking a lot about in this episode. But I just think it's so cool. It's very ornamental with the fine silver foliage, but it also smells great. And it's hardy down to zone 7, so unfortunately not for me, but makes a great container plant in the summer. And it is used in cooking, in Mediterranean cooking, but you take it out before you eat the food. There we go.
That's gooder. You know, I talked all about the super smelly tomato plants, and I totally forgot what my actual nice smelling plant was.
Oh, what is it? What is it?
Total dingus.
No.
My actual nice smelling plant was Myrecia gale, or its common name is sweet gale. And it's just this big old shrub, and it's visually there's nothing too distinctly strange about it, or nothing you'd write home about. But the thing is, it just smells really sweet. It smells really sweet and really nice whenever you disturb it in any way. So if you're standing near it and there's a bit of a breeze and it rustles the branches or anything like that, you'll totally smell just this really nice, pleasant, sweet smelling shrub. It's really nice, all in all. And it grows in bogs, and it grows up in my climate, which is awesome.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I've just had times where I've been working in the bogs, and, bog smells are typically not that pleasant, or they're just kind of meh. And then every now and then you just get like this like face full of like sweet gale smell, and it's just super nice.
Never underestimate the therapeutic qualities of smelly plants. Nice
True.
smelly plants. Sometimes in the winter, and it feels like there is no nature in the world anymore, I rip off a leaf of my pelargonium and I just like rub it and smell it. And maybe that's weird, but I like it.
Well, we'll move on from scented foliage to another scent that we talked about before, maybe in about the mint, but this is edible foliage.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I think I went full technicality on this one too, because I'm a jerk.
No, come on.
What did you do?
So I said Brassica oleracea. I think I just butchered that, but it's called wild cabbage, and it is the plant that humans took and domesticated into all sorts of different wonderful, delicious plants that we use today. So things like cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, I think broccoli, and some others. And yeah, it's just this like one wild kind of mustard plant that we took and we just kept selecting for specific things. And then we got a whole slurry of different vegetables that we love nowadays. And so I kind of hit multiple points on that one while still being just one plant. So I'm pretty pleased with myself for it.
Yeah. That's pretty much a cheat code there.
I will pat myself on the back.
That's awesome.
So many edible foliage plants that it's really hard to narrow it down, which is why that was such a good idea. So I'm going to go a little esoteric, I guess. And I'm going to talk about the plant that most surprises people. They're both surprised that you can eat it, and then they're surprised by the flavor. And that's this plant called wood sorrel. It's actually an oxalis.
Oh, wow.
It's also called redwood oxalis, and it does have a scientific name, but I completely forget how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to do it right now. But it's a native plant where I live, and it looks like, an oxalis looks like, which is kind of like a clover, but it's bigger. Like the leaves are probably a couple inches across usually. And it's just this really nice ground cover. It's very verdant, very green. And I love it because most people don't suspect that you can eat it, but it also grows a lot around here. So whenever I'm taking a hike with friends, or if I spot it in one of the gardens that I take care of, I'm like, hey, do you know what this is? And I tell them they can eat it, and then I feed it to them. And they get the second surprise because it's a really tangy, lemony, sour sort of flavor.
Oh, I've had that before. Yeah, it has like isn't it like almost like a vinegary kind of taste to it?
I mean, I like it better than vinegar.
I like it.
I like it a lot. And I mean, you really shouldn't eat too much of it, because like if you eat like a salad bowl full of just oxalics, you will have some problems because of the oxalic acid. But it's fine in small amounts, and it's just this bright, sour flavor that, you look at this cute little clover-looking plant, and you just do not suspect it to be that sour. So it's just kind of fun.
I do love sour things.
If you really want to push oxalis a lot too, the leaves on that plant do have a touch response. That could be your touch response plant too. If you touch oxalis leaves, they do fold inward, but it's just very, very, very slow.
Is it all oxalis?
If I recall correctly, I think it is all oxalis.
Because I have a ton of that weedy oxalis in my garden, and I might have to go play with it.
I will see if I can find a video.
Ooh. I remember when I was little, We had a grapevine growing outside the window, and sometimes my mom would rip me out for a leaf and I would eat it because she knew how much I liked sour things. Oh, I miss those.
Yeah, there's a lot of sour foliage that's fun. Like there's the wood sorrel, there's sheep sorrel, there's garden sorrel. uh,
Fun. They're still not welcome in my garden, sorry.
that's all right.
Okay, we're moving back to vision and the interesting looking foliage. This category is patterned foliage.
I didn't even realize that all these categories were sort of sensory.
That's how you experience the world.
True. Let's all think about that for a second. Passi, you got one for us?
Oh shoot, sorry, I'm just finding a video. Oh, this one's awful. This one's so bad. Pass over me while I try and find a good one, please.
All right, all right.
So pattern foliage, the first one that comes to mind is, of course, coleus.
Nice.
But like I like coleus a lot. There have been times when I've overwintered like so many different varieties of coleus. But there's another one that I really like, that I think far fewer people know about. And it's a kind of edible amaranth, and it's a green leafy amaranth that you eat, and I think it's something like amaranth tricolor, and it's really neat looking.
Yes.
Yeah, right? Because it's like
yes.
it's been a few years since I've grown it. I just started some more seeds, but it's like green and red and white on these leaves, and it just looks pretty. And
it looks like there's a flower at the top, but it's not a flower.
Yes, and it's cool. But then you also get to eat it, and it tastes really good. In my memory, because it's been a while since I've grown it, and you can't really find it in grocery stores around here. But it tastes like garlicky, and for people who really like cooking greens with garlic, having your greens already taste garlicky, it's like, oh, hey, bonus, saved a step. So that's my favorite, I think, just because it's so pretty and it also tastes good.
I do like that a lot. I'm thinking of getting some seeds for that if I can find them.
Do it.
Oh, the traditional Caribbean dish kaolu is made out of amaranth.
Is it this variety though? I thought it was a different one.
Well, probably whatever they have in the
Jamaica?
Caribbean, but I wonder if it tastes similar.
Probably.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that garlicky? Sure.
Interesting.
I
There's all these plants that are edible that we don't usually eat. Well, at least in different areas, they don't usually eat them, but
yeah.
We could,
yeah. We're kind of set in our ways, and we ignore a lot of what nature has to offer.
Am such a fan of going out and trying new things. Like whenever we go into a bigger city, we go to the Asian markets, and we look for a food that we haven't had before. Some fruit or vegetables. So we have a lot of fun there. And then I also really enjoy foraging, and I'm always really excited to learn about any new food or a plant that I hadn't foraged before. I'm like, oh, this is edible. I'm going to eat it now. It's just so much fun to try new things.
That sounds nice. It feels like a new way to be connected to the world. Sorry if I'm getting too philosophical.
It's okay. I don't know. It's just fun, because we have a store across the street from us that sells jackfruit sometimes, like ripe jackfruit.
Ooh.
And they're these massive fruits, right? Like they're a tropical fruit, and I think they're like 30 pounds, right? So it's this huge thing that's bigger than a baby.
Yeah, they're gigantic.
They're so big. And then
Yeah.
on the inside, it's this yellow flesh. And like, it tastes so good. And it's so much fun to bring it to a potluck because, like, most people haven't tried it yet. So they get to try this really cool fruit. And I've had so many people tell me it tastes like Starburst. It's like, well, I can kind of see that. It's just, it is really good. It's very sweet, very tropical, obviously. Just so much fun.
I've had actually, I think it was with green jackfruit, so it's like not super sugary yet. I've had a recipe once where it called for using that and making a it's like a shoot, what is the name of that again? It was like a vegan recipe that used that in lieu of a meat, which was kind of surprising because it has like
Wow.
such a stringy texture.
Yeah, I've seen recipes where they'll do they'll substitute it for pulled pork in
That's
like
it. Yeah,
barbecue.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I have someone cooked that for one of the potlucks, and that was pretty good too.
Fair. I think, oh shoot, which question were we on again? Was it the edible foliage or
Patterned foliage,
Oh,
not
Once we
patterned
edible
started
foliage.
talking
Now I
about
feel like a
food, there was
dingus.
no way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Segue.
The patterned foliage for me that I was like, oh yeah, this is this is a good one is Christia obcordata, I think is the pronunciation. Again, feel like I'm butchering that one. These plants, they look really, really cool. They kill themselves really, really easily, which kind of sucks. Like they just find new ways to die on
Oh
you.
no.
Oh.
And they're really expensive, unfortunately. But yeah, they look like almost photoshopped. But like that patterning on their leaves, like holy, that is so cool,
That looks like it's made out of paper.
right?
Amazing, like origami plant.
And yeah, they look so beautiful, and I'd love to try growing one. Except the thing is, from what I've read, they're really easy. They're really good at dying. Sometimes for no reason at all.
Oh.
Yep,
I have a feeling you're gonna try it.
I probably yeah. I know somebody who has seeds for them, so I might have to buy some.
Nice.
It does have a very striking leaf shape and coloration.
Mm-hmm.
I see it's
It's like
called
moths.
butterfly plant sometimes. And yeah, it really does kind of look like a butterfly. I wonder if that was selected for somehow or it's a coincidence.
Do you
Yeah,
know if they close at night?
I have absolutely no idea. Unfortunately, I have no idea whatsoever. All I know is that this is like one just super striking plant, and I feel like if I try growing it, I'm just going to be a glutton for punishment.
We already are, so might as well.
Mm-hmm. You're not wrong. But I think the sale price for these things, like seeds wise, is still crazy expensive. Even just looking online, like tiny cuttings of this plant are like 30 euros, and then
my
Wow.
seeds are like, or around 20 to $30 Canadian. I
Wow.
even see like larger plants for sale of this thing, and they're like
Wow.
over 60 euros. So yeah, yeah, they look good.
I think Zappy's gonna pass.
Yeah. For now, at least.
I actually wasn't going to talk about this plant, Euphorbia ascot rainbow, but I have to mention it. I'm kind of pouting at it this year because mine started reverting, but it is so freaking beautiful. I think it's barely hardy in my zone 6, and I have it kind of in a sheltered spot. It did not come out of winter looking great, and I don't know why it's reverting, so I'm hesitant to recommend it, but I will still buy another one and I will try it again. The plant I'm going to talk a little bit about is Begonia immaculata whitey. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, polka dot plant, which is hardy in zones 10 through 11, and kind of a pretty good house plant. And I say that because I haven't killed it. I got 2 last year because I was fully expecting to lose at least one. And then I ended up having to overwinter both of them because they survived the summer. So I put one under grow lights and one next to an east-facing window, and they both did fine, surprisingly.
Awesome.
I'm very impressed that I could overwinter something without a grow light and also not kill it. And it's very easy to propagate, which is another great plus for it. Just stick it in some water and it grows roots very fast. So now I've propagated it, I think 4 times at least, because it just can't stop. You just cut off a piece and it keeps going, and they look so cute.
Well, with begonias, you can even propagate them with just leaves. You can just cut off a leaf and stick the leaf into like
Does
a
that
kind
work
of
with all
cleaner
begonias?
solution, and the leaf will root and grow a plant.
Nice. This is an angel wing begonia, and if you've ever seen Louboutin shoes, it kind of reminds me of that. It has red undersides and very cute white polka dots that look like they're kind of painted on the tops of the leaves, because they're almost a little transparent in places like the paint wasn't thick enough to cover. I really like this plant.
I love it too. I have both the Begonia maculata radi, I think is the cultivar, and then I also have one of the whitey, which is the other one, the one that you have. And yeah, the leaves just look spectacular.
Yeah. I want all the begonias. I held myself back
So
last
many.
fall from placing an order for the winter, and I was kind of glad I did because of my accidental overpopulation of pelargoniums. But I think this fall I might do the begonia order to give myself a little indoor garden of begonias.
Well, would these be more or less than a pair of Louboutins would cost?
Less, definitely less.
Depends
Oh, well,
if you
it
live
sounds
in
like a
Canada.
bargain.
Depends on the
Yeah.
begonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it reminds me of the famous Iggy Azalea line, "Walk a mile in these begonias."
Okay, he gets the laughs. My jokes fall flat.
Sorry.
Don't bully me. I'm sleepy.
All right, let's get the show on the road.
The kids love these Iggy Azalea references, I gotta say. Okay, moving on.
Mhm.
We are gonna talk more about. Well, this is similar to pattern foliage, but we're gonna talk about the shape of the foliage with intricate foliage.
Passi, you asleep now?
Fighting it. I'm fighting it.
Oh no.
Oh.
Don't mind me though. Intricate foliage. Ooh, I think I have one, and it's pretty simple. It's pretty nice for that though. It's Achillea millefolium.
Oh yeah.
Which its common name is yarrow, right?
Mhm.
And it's just a really simple little plant. But the thing is, its leaves are like super, super highly divided into little leaflets, which is how it gets its kind of Latin name. Because milli meaning thousands, I believe, and folium being for foliage, so it'd be like
Mhm.
thousands of leaves. And I'm trying to see if I could find a photo of it, because while their flowers are like not terribly, fun or anything like that, the leaves are really, really nice.
I actually really like yarrow.
Flowers?
I do. And I like using them in my clients' gardens because around here we have a lot of deer and bunnies, and they seem to not like eating the yarrow. And there's the white ones, but there's also the really vibrant yellow ones that just look like a glow stick out there. And then
That's-
there's some nice pinks and reds too. So
See, I've just come across them out in the field where they'll be growing
Sure.
in a patch of like sad grass and sand, and you come across this plant and like the yarrow leaves look really cool, but then it has this like umbel flower that just like sticks out and it looks so out of place where it's growing.
Yeah,
It's out in the field.
that
It
is
just
true.
looks really odd.
The
But like
ones
it's
that
in a
are
garden, it can look beautiful.
yeah, the ones that are out in more wild areas definitely look a little more raggedy.
And sad, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we got some people excited about yarrow, so
Hey.
doing a good work here, guys. Mine's still alive. I have a massive bunny infestation and mine's still alive, so yay for yarrow.
Yeah. I think for intricate plants, for me, this is probably a little like, really, but I just really love monsteras. And I really love Monstera deliciosa, which is the big common one that everyone knows. But like, they way more fenestrated the bigger the plant is, the older the plant is. And so, like, we see the ones that we have in our houses. Those of us who don't live in the tropics, we have them in our houses.
Yeah.
But then you go to like a botanical gardens greenhouse, or maybe you travel to the tropics and you see these massive leaves. Like, okay, obviously, I really like big leaves. So that's part of the draw. They just have so many holes. And, they look lacy. Like, you get one that's old enough and big enough and has been in, good enough condition. And they're just they're lacy. They're really cut out and really intricate, I think. So even though, like, the one I have might not be that intricate, I think one in really good condition, like, they're neat.
They are. I mean, there's a reason they're so popular.
Yeah.
The fruit is also delicious.
I have heard that. And it's so. At one point, I was like, I'm going to get mine to flower and then fruit. And then I was like, I looked it up and it takes a year for the fruit to ripen. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
There's no way I'm going to keep this plant healthy and happy enough.
Keeping a plant alive for a year goals.
It was so worth it. It was so delicious.
My plant, I got it from a friend's grandpa, and it's like, it's been in my care for a while now, like, I think like 5 years.
Nice.
But they really like it warm, and they really like it sunny. I mean, at least up here, right? I'm in Washington State, so my definition of sunny is not the same as someone who's like in LA, right? Like, the light is more intense in LA, or so I can put mine in full sun in our summer, and it's quite happy. But then winter comes around, and it's like, oh, I'm going to just stop growing. So I don't think it's feasible to actually get it to fruit.
All right, my turn. Yay. Guess what I've got? Pelargonium. I just want to compare a couple leaves. I've got a picture that I took today of a variety called Old Fashioned Rose and a variety called Skeleton Rose and a variety called Pine or Pine Leaf Pelargonium, Pelargonium denticulatum. And you can see the sort of increasing level of intricacy in that foliage. So you can see there's such a variety in leaf shapes with pelargoniums. I was kind of gushing about all these this winter, and SB was like, they all look the same to me. Oh, massive insult.
They
Just
have
massive.
the same general structure, I guess I would say.
But look how toothy the one is, and they smell nice too. The first two smell like roses, and the other one, well, it's supposed to smell like pine. I'm not sure it actually does. Another variety that I think is just gorgeous is Gray Lady Plymouth, because it's variegated, and I love variegation. And there's a plant that I would love to grow called Sinilicis echinidifolium. Probably butchered it. It's a bloodbath every time I try to pronounce a botanical name. It's the shredded umbrella plant. And it is hardy down to zone 4, so I should be able to grow it. It looks so cool. It is somehow in the Asteraceae family. Who knew? And it just looks like, well, a shredded umbrella.
Huh.
I want
could
that.
grow that.
I want that. And I feel like I would be remiss to not mention Japanese maples.
Yeah.
Also a good one. Yep.
And also a plant that I need several varieties of because the leaves are phenomenal. There's some that are so fine and delicate. And then there's variegated ones. So one of each, please.
Why
Right.
stop at one?
Oh no, I can tell you why.
You need a backup for when Space Butler throws out the first one.
Oh no, he doesn't like digging.
That's true. All right, we'll move on from intricate foliage to foliage with cool geometry.
Do you want to start us off, Ig?
All right. Disocactus anguliger? Passi, I need help pronouncing that.
I don't know how to pronounce that one.
It's fishbone cactus, also known as rickrack cactus and zigzag cactus.
Oh
That one's a
yeah,
gooder.
those guys.
It looks like rickrack. It's so cool, and I want it. And you know me, I'm not really into succulents or epiphytes, which this is, or really houseplants. More of an outdoor gal, but it's so cool, and I want to try it. And another one that is, in a way, I think it's a little similar to the shredded umbrella plant that I mentioned, but it has a more geometric shape to it. And I can't grow it because it's only hardy down to 7B, is Manihot grahamii? Again, apologies to the plant kingdom. It is hardy tapioca and it's native to South America. In the colder range of its zones, it dies down in the winter, but it can grow up to 8 to 10 feet tall every season.
Oh, I know someone who just got one of those.
Oh,
these
nice.
have a very interesting leaf shape.
Hardy tapioca. Huh.
Yeah, those things are so cool.
They get weedy in their native habitat, and the people that have to live with them are not in love with them as we are.
I'll trade places with them.
It does kind of look like weeds that we have around here, but with a
it doesn't.
Well, the structure of if you just had one of them like on the ground, because it has a central point and then thin leaves coming off of
mean like
the center,
like dandelion leaves.
A little bit, or something that's
I could see that
like that. But the leaves on this, the hardy tapioca are much more defined. Like they have
very kind of geometric feel to it, which I just think it's fascinating.
A lot of the plants that are related to that one, actually, like pretty closely related to it, have some like super intricate foliage.
Ooh,
if anyone's ever kind of just bored online, you could always kind of Google around for those things because they all look.
I mean, Googling plants is my full-time job, unpaid.
But yeah, do you have any others?
No, nope. And this baby grows to like a thick tree, like with a trunk.
Wow.
Amazing. Nature is amazing.
Nice. What about you, Zappy? Do you have any plants with cool geometry?
I do. So our native bleeding heart up here, which you guys, you're all like, I can't pronounce the names, and I'm like, I can't remember the names. But anyway, Pacific bleeding heart. Like, I feel like they just go unnoticed. I feel like people don't really look at them. But their leaves are really interesting to me because they're delicate, but they're also like, I'm walking out to see if I can see one right now. They're a little angular. The way their leaves are shaped are a little more angular than you'd expect. And they're just really pretty, and I just like those a lot. And then, of course, when you think geometry, or when I think geometry and plant leaves, I think about ferns. Because, there's that picture of the fiddlehead, right? And it's that fractal, and then it's unfurling, and they're just really cool. So I would say, another really underappreciated plant, because it's everywhere, is bracken ferns. Like, if you just watch a bracken fern unfold, like, it has a circumpolar distribution, I found out. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's everywhere. It just means that where it can live, it is. But yeah, so ferns, and just the way they, I feel like fractals probably use too much with plants, but I think ferns have some really interesting stuff going on. And then a really pretty fern is the maidenhair ferns.
Yeah,
if
lovely.
you haven't looked at those, like, they're just beautiful.
I found the name for the Pacific bleeding heart is Dicentra formosa.
See, that's what I thought, but I did have faith in myself.
Should have gone for it.
I totally forgot to mention all the plants I was thinking of that have that fractal pattern and Fibonacci spiral.
Well,
There's Euphorbia myrsinitis, which is hardy down to zone 5. It grows, the leaves grow in a spiral around the stems. And I want to try that because I can actually put it outside. If I can put it outside, maybe I won't kill it. And if it dies, it won't be my fault. That's how I see it. And then, of course, there's the begonia leaf that is so iconic for looking like the Fibonacci spiral, especially escargot, which really delineates that well. And there's an aloe called Aloe polyphylla, which has a very obvious sort of spiraling shape. But I feel like anything succulent is more Passi's purview than mine.
That aloe actually is surprisingly cold hardy. It
really?
obviously couldn't live in my climate, but it does in its native climate. It does live in a higher altitude, and so can handle some pretty light frost.
Nice.
So I would recommend for people who are living in maybe like a bit of a warmer climate than me and my frozen hellscape to look into that aloe, because that aloe looks super cool, and I think it has something like 150 leaves, something like that. It's absurd.
Wow. It's like a rose, except painful.
Don't
stick your nose in it, folks.
I went for the third weird technicality for plants.
Yes, I'm excited.
That's the kind of man I am. Deal with it.
Wouldn't want it any other way, Passi. Thank you.
So for geometric plants, I chose the Barnsley fern. Now, the Barnsley fern, the reason why it's an interesting one is because it's not actually a plant. Kind of.
What?
So it was made by a mathematician whose name is Barnsley. He was writing a book called Fractals Everywhere, and he made a mathematical formula that if you do the computation for it and you plot that, it will produce basically this fractaling image that looks like a fern. I just posted it in the event chat so you can kind of take a look. And so it is modeled to be after an actual fern plant, but this is just the output of that computation. And so it's not a plant, it's actually just the output of a mathematical formula, but it kind of is a plant because it's based on a real one, and it also it's good for that. But yeah, I think that's a great cop out.
Do you have a scientific explanation of why plants tend to follow these algorithms?
For ferns, I don't, because they have this weird self-symmetry, which is awesome and super nice, where, if you like zoom into a little part of the frond, it looks just like a smaller version of that frond.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for that one, which is kind of disappointing. I would like to know. I know for other things though, where you do have these kind of like different patterns, like I know it was brought up the golden ratio, for things like I think Bubs mentioned earlier in pine cones, and you do see it also in like pineapples, various other things. I think it's more of an actual just coincidence where it's like this is, you know, how plants arrange themselves is it ends up just being the most efficient system without having weird kind of like self-shading or things like
Mhm.
that for like how to arrange leaves. But I don't know why exactly plants, especially for things like ferns, have these really cool self-symmetries. I wish I did.
Yeah, I was looking into that a little bit, and it I think most of the consensus is that it's optimal for something, right? They have after a certain number of iterations in evolution, they kind of maximize what they're going to do, and because they're working on essentially very simple programs, it kind of matches the things that you see with fractals, which are basically very simple programs repeated uh, a very large number of times. So you see a not it's not that uh, plants found out about fractals before humans. It's just kind of a natural kind of thing where you have a program, either a computer program or a biological program running constantly.
Yeah, I do really like that about plants. It's kind of one of my favorite things about them is that, because they've been around for so long and plants have to function in such a competitive environment, they over time have just become the most kind of like logically straightforward things where they'll do things in shockingly efficient manners. And so by sheer coincidence, they'll do things like have their leaves arranged into the same distribution that we have for the golden ratio, because turns out that's just the most efficient system for not self shading.
That's just amazing.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things about plants is just how wonderfully straightforward they are and how they just always make sense, even when they shouldn't.
That's nice. That feels nice. Heartwarming.
The cold mathematics of survival.
Yes, the cold mathematics of survival is no, I think it's heartwarming how Passi finds happiness in that.
I just like it.
Okay, I think we're ready to move on to plants with cold tolerant or evergreen foliage.
Who wants to go first?
Zappy?
Oh, I'm in zone 8, so my cold tolerant evergreen foliage is not everyone's cold tolerant evergreen foliage. But I mean, I guess I can talk about the ones I do appreciate. I think one of the ones that doesn't get talked about as much, or maybe that's just around here, but hardy cyclamens, their foliage comes out in late fall around here and sticks around till spring, so it's out there being its gorgeous self during the dreary, gray, cold, drippy weather that we have. But I think they're really underappreciated because they're these kind of heart-shaped leaves.
I appreciate them and I want them.
Well, good. Because they have these alternating bands of green and silvery, and they're just really pretty. Like, I almost think I like their leaves more than their flowers. Yeah, I think I like their leaves more than their flowers because you get a healthy clump of hardy cyclamen, and it's just there in the middle of winter, looking cool, you know. And I like, I think it's Hydrifolium that I like the most because of the ones I've seen, because they just have such a neat pattern, and it's this silvery and green, and there aren't like our winters are pretty mild because we're zone 8, but we're also the dreary end of zone 8, so we just have rain, gray days and rain for months and months. So it's nice to have something like that that's poking out and being cute. I also like Ceanothus, but I realize that is not evergreen everywhere. Where I am, it is. So it's this dark green foliage, and I just think it's really neat because, like, it doesn't look like much from far away, but you get pretty close in, and then the leaves are just little, and they're little wrinkly things, and they just look cute. Like, they're these little green leaves, and they just look cute. So I guess those are my two.
That's a good one. I like that.
Passi?
Sweet. So for me, I think when it comes to like evergreen foliage, or I think what was it? It was it's cold tolerant or evergreen foliage. So for me, I said bunchberry. I'm pretty sure I've ranted before here about how much I love bunchberry because I
You convinced me to get some. I haven't yet, but I'm looking.
So I'm posting a photo here. The one I'm posting here is Western bunchberry, which is actually a rare species in my province. It's super similar to the other regular bunchberries that get posted here. There's just a couple small differences, but I love their foliage. Just these like long parallel lines that go across the leaves, which is a typical thing of dogwoods. They have a false flower in the center. Those 4 white. They look like petals. Those are actually just leaves. It's just a very symmetrical plant in multiple different ways, which is so nice. They always have like 4 leaves or 6. And so that's always good. The parallel leaves. It's just all really, really nice. And their seed pods explode. Seed pods explode. I think it's their pollen. They shoot their pollen at pollinators, if I recall correctly. So there's like a hilarious aspect to them too, where they'll just like shoot down a pollinator. All in all, it's very
Sorry. that was a surprising revelation.
It just adds to it for me, at least. Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah, it's their pollen. They'll fling their pollen up. And the thing is, they'll fling their stamens up, and they accelerate up to a rate of 24,000 meters per second, according to Wikipedia. Which is
I thought this was like the quiet, peaceful cousin of the Cornus family that just quietly creeps along the ground, but it is not.
I mean, it kind of is, except for the off chance where it just blasts pollen up in the air, which is hilarious.
So funny.
Yeah, in order to actually get a good shot of it, you have to have a camera that's capable of shooting around 10,000 frames per second.
Oh, wow. I see. Good to know. All right. The plant I chose isn't anything surprising or shocking. It is Helleborus, but it's fabulous. It is basically a zero care plant. You plant it out somewhere in the shade, and you don't have to do anything. You might want to clean up the leaves when they start looking ratty, and that happens in the spring after it puts out new foliage. So it basically replaces itself once a year with brand new, perfect foliage. And some of them have kind of nice mottled, sort of slightly patterned, veiny look to them, which can also be ornamental. Great plant, highly recommend. It's good for zones 4 through 9.
Ooh. So it can also grow in my frozen expansive.
Yeah. Yep.
I really like them. They have just like, it's like a nice, simple, straightforward flower, and like those are underappreciated in gardens.
Some of them have very complex flowers, like, well,
That
maybe
is
not
true.
complex, but they breed them to be like freaks in nature, double sort of, or
Multiple whorls of petals and
Yeah.
whatnot.
yeah, like what's it called? Anemone flowered, stuff like that.
Mm.
But they're usually nodding, so you really have to kind of get down there to appreciate them.
Those
But
are
the
nice.
foliage is such a huge plus.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of there's a couple different orchids actually that have very similar kind of foliage.
Oh,
Yeah, do you remember what they're called? Zappy?
no, I was just thinking of a completely different.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Oh,
I was
jewel
thinking of
orchids.
lightning orchids. Oh, but yeah.
Yeah, jewel orchids. Some of them have like it almost looks like gold in the veins, but that what you just posted there totally reminds me of them.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's actually what I was thinking about. I was just stuck in cold climates, but I love jewel orchids, and I have ones, and they, as cool as they look in pictures, they look cooler in real life because you can
Oh.
hold them up, and like those veins that are glitterly like golden and silvery, like they glitter a little bit, and so it, and you can,
Wow.
they're just so pretty. They're so cool.
I'm so jealous. You have no idea.
They are happily living in one of my little terrariums. I was like, yes, be there, be happy.
I've
Nice.
wanted one for so long.
I lucked out because someone had almost killed theirs, and so they threw it in on a plant trade we were doing. So I got it
Nice.
for free, and it was like the size of a quarter when I got it. But it's really easy to take care of. And they're just gorgeous. They're just gorgeous.
My plant list is growing right now. You guys are adding so many more. I'm gonna have to pick up some Helleborus too. I feel like those would be a really good plant to have like out on the balcony.
Yes.
You can actually get ones that bloom quite early. I'm not sure when they would bloom for you because you are in a frozen hellscape. But Helleborus niger, which is called that because not because the flowers are black, but because the roots are black.
Oh,
Those are very early flowering.
I'm gonna have to
I
take a
actually
look.
got some for $10
That's a steal.
at Trader Joe's last winter.
Oh, Trader Joe's.
Yes.
We're not affiliated and we're not receiving money from them.
But we
I will
want
say
to
Trader
be.
Joe's is great.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, please contact me on server for any opportunities.
Mr. Joe, if you would like to buy the server a coffee, you can also hit up the link.
All right, so let's move on to foliage for a moon garden. This is, of course, is foliage that is appropriate for planting on the moon's surface. So I'm very excited to hear about your answers for this one.
Is that where we're going with this?
Yes, it is. And thankfully, China's lunar rover was able to germinate a couple seeds, so we know it's possible.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Okay. Who wants to explain what a moon garden is?
If I remember correctly, a moon garden is a garden that typically has a lot of like white flowers, and it'll
Yes.
have things that, typically will look best if viewed at night.
Yes.
Am I
Yeah.
wrong? Okay.
No,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
correct.
It just glows in the dark. It's
Yeah.
it's fabulous. It's something that I've been trying to create forever and failing at because it's hard with the limits that you set for yourself.
Mhm.
But this year I've realized that you can incorporate silver foliage into that to
Yep.
give it some more of that interest because white flowers actually create a lot of green foliage in the off times when they're not blooming.
True.
So,
And then the other part of a moon garden is there's actually a lot of plants, and this might be something more common in warmer climates, but there's a lot of plants that actually open up for the
Yeah.
dusk for the night.
yeah. One of my
So
favorites, Nicotiana, that the Bubs has admitted to hating. I love it, and it smells fantastic at night too.
Yeah. Smell, I think, should be a big part of moon gardens, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it is because a lot of those night blooming white flowers actually have the scent probably to attract pollinators, I would think, like moths. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. They a lot of the like white, especially the white flowers that bloom only at night is
Yeah.
typically the plants just putting in a bunch of more effort and energy and nutrients into trying to make basically things that'll be attractive to pollinators at night. So it'll be things like smells. It'll be like a larger floral display, but it won't be pigments because colors aren't as important at night. So no, you're totally right on that. At least as far as I'm
Yay.
aware.
Yay. Plant detective work on my part.
Yay. So I picked a plant then that actually might help you out a lot because this is a plant that looks good during the day or at night.
Ooh.
So it might be useful for like kind of in a moon garden. I don't know if it would be good to plant outside. You'd probably want to bring it in every winter because it's expensive. It's begonia. I'm gonna butcher this one. Begonia pavonina, I think
Mm-hmm.
is what it's called. I'll post a photo here.
They're
And so when it's growing
amazing.
and
They
it's
are
happy,
amazing.
these things have like a
Oh,
metallic blue foliage. And
They
the thing
are
is
so
about
cool.
it is
that is
these
what I call a
leaves,
taffeta prom dress.
they are so reflective. And so at night, just a little bit of light and they'll look like they're basically glowing. Like they look so cool. Like no photo does them justice, just like those orchids earlier. And so these things, like if you had it in a moon garden, just a little bit of light to make the flowers kind of visible, and those leaves would just pop.
Insane. Just insane.
I
So
do have one
pretty.
growing, and it is very sad right now, unfortunately.
Mm.
How expensive are they?
Uh, let's
One
see.
track mind there.
Well,
Is this gonna cost me more money?
no, it just makes sense. Anybody who's collected, Magic or Pokemon cards know the foil version costs more money.
Oh,
And this
there we
one's the
go.
foil version. It looks like I'm looking online, and Etsy stores in Canada are selling them for about $90.
Oh
American
my!
ones are selling them for about $50,
Oh no!
around that price range.
This is
Um,
making me feel really bad because someone sold me a baby one for $12, and
You
then
got some great deals,
no,
Zappy.
no. But here's the problem: is that it died. So
no.
yeah. On the plus side, I also got a begonia. It looks like it should be said taco night, but I'm sure they did not mean taco night. It's probably something that makes taco night. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
I'm very interested in this taco night plant.
right. So
Does it only bloom on Tuesdays?
no,
Hope
it's
so.
similar to the one we've been talking about, but it also is iridescent. But it's a bluer iridescence than the javelina or however we say it. But
I'm so
that
glad I'm
one's
not the
still
only one who
alive.
struggles on it.
Yeah.
There is another begonia too that has a very, very blue metallic like leaf. It's called begonia metallicolor, and they were only
Yeah.
recently discovered and described to science. And they are like even more metallic blue than the pavovina, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
So pavonina, there we go. But they're they were discovered, described, and then poached to
Oh.
no end, and so they're actually extremely expensive, hard to get, and also really not, easy to find in the wild anymore either.
Dang.
Yeah, and they're also really hard to grow, and so a lot of people who poached them just ended up killing them. So
Oh,
womp
Oh,
womp.
that's terrible.
yeah.
So there's another metallic looking begonia, and it's begonia Sarawak. It's super cute. I do not have one yet, but it's more of a pastel metallic color sort of thing going on. And it's super cute and it's super small, and I've only ever seen them growing in terrariums. But it's also, I haven't checked in a while, but it's also really expensive.
Yeah, begonias can get stupid very quickly.
Yeah.
I don't trust myself with expensive varieties. I'll go for the cheaper, more widely available ones because I am the plant killer.
Well, and that's a funny thing, because like with begonias, what is it? The Rex begonias are like, I feel like they're really cheap, but they've got some really pretty ones too. And I feel like people are just like, oh, it's cheap, I don't care about it. But it's like, but have you looked at it?
They're gorgeous.
They're unbelievable. They look so good.
Yeah.
I'm also a huge fan of the begonias that don't look like begonias. Like they have just shockingly normal looking foliage. Because I just find that really funny to have a plant that's hard to grow, like expensive, but then also just looks like the most average thing you could have.
Wow.
Oh my god.
I'll see if I could find some species, but they're great for the exact opposite.
That's an interesting approach to money management.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
What plants would you guys use for a moon garden?
All right, moon garden. I was going to say gated hostas, because you get some nice yellows and whites, and they also have really pale flowers a lot of the time. So I just thought those would show up well in a
You guys,
moon garden.
I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we're almost 2 hours in, and just now we've mentioned hostas in a foliage episode. That is very impressive.
So I like those, but I also think there's some really nice Japanese forest grasses that are super cute and like super yellow. So I feel like those would, pop at night. And I also feel like
there's variegated ones too with white.
Yes, very cute. Like, they're the ones I see in my clients' gardens. And I'm like, too, but I have no space for you. But they also are really like lightweight. So if there's a slight breeze, their like leaves will move in the breeze, and it'll just be really pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a sense I think we missed, the movement of foliage in our sensory leaf episode.
Experience leaf with all 5 senses. Yes, please.
Just rub yourself against them.
Unless it's stinging nettle.
Oh, right.
Just say that. Just hug a stinging nettle. Experience it with all 5 senses.
My early childhood learning to walk, I used stinging nettle as a support.
No.
Oh, that's so sad.
I was going around the nettles earlier today, and now I feel like a fool. I should have been hugging them.
You could have just used them for support.
I should have.
Yeah, just grab on.
I don't think my parents had much control of which direction I ran into. I didn't walk, I just ran. My mom says I never crawled, I just got up and ran.
Oh my god.
That is so me to just like either not do something or go way overboard on it.
Yeah. So I'm going to share the first time I met stinging nettles. So my mom's a forager, and so she had always told me stories about going and picking stinging nettle, but they didn't grow in the patch of forest where I grew up. So she never got a chance to show me. And then I went to community college before I went to 4-year, and there was this tree. And I climbed up this tree when I was in my teens, right? And I climbed up this tree, and I paid no attention to the plants around it. And I was wearing jeans and shoes, so it didn't matter. But then I jumped out of the tree.
Oh, no.
And I was wearing a short-sleeved shirt.
Oh.
It was a patch of stinging nettle.
Oh.
So it was my introduction to stinging nettle.
And if our listeners are lucky enough to not have experienced this, it is a searing, sort of almost electric pain.
It is quite painful.
I guess I could bring up my my nettle plant, that jimpy, but I'll save it for another. We'll save it for another episode when we talk about painful.
These are happy plants we're talking about here.
These are supposed to be good sensory perception.
Oops.
Don't we should probably put a warning here. Probably don't want to put stinging nettle in your moon garden.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my!
I would avoid that.
You just walk around the moon garden at night. There's like a trap of stinging nettle.
Oh my god.
Can we do a 180 on that idea there, Space Butler? Could we have stinging nettle in a moon garden?
You could put it around the moon garden to try to make sure nobody
protection.
else. Yeah, it's like a moat of stinging nettle.
Maybe that's what I need to keep my tomatoes from being stolen.
There you go.
Is that effective against bunnies? Can you do bunnies care about stinging nettle?
I don't know. Do they? Probably not. They don't really have exposed skin.
They have their little noses.
Yeah.
I bet their tongues.
I feel like I would hurt myself more than I would hurt the bunnies.
I don't know specifically about bunnies, but I do know from experience that cows will not eat stinging nettle until you come along and knock them down, and then they wilt. Like, they'll eat them after they've wilted, but they will not.
Okay, for a second I thought you meant knock the cows down.
No, not
yeah, you just have to like knock the cows over and they'll eat it. Yeah, you just have to bully
will not do what I tell them until I knock them down.
Just bully the cattle, and then they'll do it.
Yeah.
I think either way, we'll probably pass on planting a bunch of stinging nettle in our garden.
Yes,
that's a big brain move.
I've been tempted at times because I really like foraging for it. But it's also like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, just go somewhere else to pick the nettle. Don't put it in your own garden.
All right, should I talk about my selections for Moon Garden?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I am planning on next year hopefully getting some Artemisia. I already have the silver mound, the little fuzzy tribble kitty plant. But the one I want to get is Powell's Castle, and that's, I think, about 36 inches tall. So that should look nice, kind of dispersed to kind of break up the green foliage of everything else. And another one that I think is very cool that I'm not going to get because I think I would kill it is Senecio Angel Wings. And that's almost entirely white foliage.
Ooh.
It's gorgeous because it's got those trichomes I learned from Passi.
Ew. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That is a beautiful plant.
Yeah. And it's kind of a succulent, so not something that I would brave. Oh yeah, and lamium is something I do have a lot of. It is super easy ground cover. And if you really want to go all the way with the Moon Garden theme, they usually have purple flowers, but there's a variety called White Nancy that has white flowers. It is a bit of an aggressive spreader, but it's not hard to yank out. It's not like mint, although it is in the mint family. You can have it in sun or shade. It's hardy down to zone 3. You can use it in containers as a nice little spiller. I love it.
I can't wait to see the photo. I feel like Space Butler's posting it.
Is it coming?
White Nancy?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that looks good.
One of my photos, I have a photo of it kind of intermingling with Creeping Jenny. I have a bed that is bordered by a house on 2 sides and a concrete path on 2 sides.
Okay.
So this is where I keep all those spreading plants.
That's
like
a good plan.
Creeping Jenny. Although I do have some vinca vine in there that is trying to get out, even though there's concrete all around. So,
is it vinca major or vinca minor?
can't remember. It's the variegated one because I can't resist a variegated plant. And I thought, oh, I'll plant this in the ground and I'll have more next year. And then it sat there
No.
not doing anything for like 7 or 8 years. And this year it went bananas and it is popping up in concrete everywhere. In every crack imaginable. SB, can you post a picture that I took of my lovely... Yes, there it is. I kind of love the bluishness of the foliage contrasted with the creeping Jenny. Sort of a more golden tone. But yeah, gotta keep... Especially creeping Jenny, I think lamium is a little more controllable, but it's best to keep it contained.
I think when you get to the point where you're like really happy with how your garden is going, I really want to see some full landscape photos, especially if you go all in on like a moon garden kind of style. Because you've
Yeah,
just
that was
posted
my
nothing
goal
but
for this year, is to be able to take a zoomed out photo. It has not happened.
Honestly, I'm in the same boat. But like you
Yeah.
just posted like nothing but like knockout after knockout for just unreal nice looking plants, and I feel like if they were all collected together, it would just look incredible.
I hope someday I can have a garden that I am not embarrassed to zoom out and take a picture of.
That's the
There's
goal.
with the new bed, there's a little bit of filling out that needs to be done.
Yeah, I have a
probably
lot of
next
very
year.
tiny seedlings that first and second year plants, and some failures and some areas where for some reason the soil just will not dry out and everything is turning yellow. Growing pains. A lot of weeds too. A lot of Extalis to play with to see how long it takes to close the leaves.
All right, we can move on to colorful foliage. Who needs flowers if you have colorful foliage, right?
Yep. Well,
Honestly, I
no.
totally
What?
agree with
No.
Yeah.
I agree with that actually.
Don't
Because
need the flowers, yeah.
I actually fully agree with that, because the thing is, how frequently do you kind of stand there and just, see a nice flower and then that flower dies off and now you have the rest of the plant for however long that thing lives, right? Whereas if
Yeah.
you get a plant that you love the foliage, even if the flower dies on it, or even if the flower's kind of meh, whatever, the foliage, if that's the thing you love, like you're gonna love that plant always. You're always gonna look at it and be like, oh, I love this thing. Like the jewel orchid, you're always gonna look at it and be happy with it.
Yeah.
My criteria, one of my top criteria for plants is that after they bloom, the foliage doesn't go to crap.
Yeah.
Because sometimes after a plant blooms, the foliage just like has no energy and it just looks horrible. So even if it's not outstandingly interesting foliage, as long as it's healthy looking, I'm happy. Maybe that's not a high bar, but that's one of my criteria for flowering plants.
Yeah, I feel like for me, as long as the foliage is something I enjoy, like I'll have to see if I could find photos of it again, because there are some plants where like they look like just dead sticks, but I really like that. And
okay.
the flowers are really boring and small and tiny, but the thing is the plant looks cool because it just looks like dead sticks, but every now and then you'll see a little tiny flower on it and you're like, oh, you're still alive and you're actually happy. And that's good enough. And so like as long as the foliage makes me happy, I'm happy with it. But I'd prefer that over anything where it's like, even if it has a nice flower, if it has boring foliage.
So was the topic colorful foliage this time?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like I had probably already put down lightning orchids or jewel orchids. But since we already talked about those, I'm going to go with Tradescantias.
Oh, yes.
And I love Tradescantias. I have several different varieties and species. But I think my two favorites right now, there's Tradescantia zebrina, and then the cultivar name is quadricolor, I believe. Quadricolor,
Wow.
like four color. And it's
That's a lot of
ridiculous.
color.
Yeah, it's a lot of color. Like, it's green, it's white, it's pink. It's got a little bit where the pink overlaps with the green. It looks kind of purpley. It's like super pretty. And then I do not remember the scientific name, but it is a Tradescantia, and it's called Purple Heart. But I've got a variegated Purple Heart, so it's purple, truly purple. It is very, very purple. It's not like kind of purple. It is purple, and then it's variegated with like hot pink.
Wow.
So it's like, how are you even real? Like, you are purple and pink. So it's just ridiculous. Yeah, those are my two favorites right now.
Sounds amazing.
Ooh,
They
those
are.
colors. I couldn't honestly pick one for colorful foliage. I just went with the blanket begonia because yeah, even begonia rex, even like the very, very like, abundant begonias that you see in stores, like a lot of them, they just look so beautiful. They just hit so many different colors and patterns and whatnot that like, how
Yeah.
can you not enjoy a begonia?
I love them. Lots
They're
of
so
pinks
pretty.
in that too.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
I actually just recently got a begonia that has it's like a begonia maculata, but instead of having silvery dots, it has these like hot pink dots, which
Wow.
is really strange, but I really like that.
That
You
sounds
remember
pretty
what it's
cool.
called?
Let me see if I can find it. It just recently started growing too, which made me quite happy. But yeah, what about you, Egg? I feel like you haven't given us enough.
Okay.
Give
Um,
us the colorful foliage while I look for the
I'm
weird
I'm
begonia.
I'm hooked on hookeras, one might say.
Please say that.
What?
Hooked
What?
on hookeras is great.
Yeah.
That's the episode name. Calling it now. I'm calling
Stay
it now.
tuned
That's
for
too good.
our next 2-hour podcast just on hookeras.
Easily. Oh my god, there are so many. They come in so many colors. They range from orange to red to magenta and purple and almost black. Some are silver and chartreuse and the boring green, but what you gonna do? I'm so fascinated with them. Unfortunately, I can't grow them in the ground because of the evil scourge of the bunnies. And they have different sort of sun requirements, somewhat based on color. The black and purple ones are more sun tolerant. But I have a variety called, I think it's Berry Smoothie. And I have it pretty much in full sun. It's sort of on a east, south, southeast, I guess one would say, if one knew how to talk, corner. And it doesn't scorch. And I have it in a pot. It's in a tall pot. Bunnies do get to it in the winter when they're desperate and they're not as lazy and they reach up. And they completely chowed it down this past winter, but it's rebounding. It survived, and the leaves are just gorgeous, sort of berry colored. And when the sun hits them, they glow red. Really like that variety. There's one I had that I'm very sad that I lost. It kind of got overwatered in a pot with poor drainage in a very rainy fall last year. It was called goji berry. It had ruffled leaves that were kind of orangey greeny on top and magenta on the bottom.
Wow.
So pretty. If I see it again, I want to buy it. Then I've got a variety called Silver Gumdrop, I believe. And that one has that lovely silver foliage, kind of with a purple underside. And this is a plant that is native to North America, quite cold hardy. And the foliage, I guess it could go in the category that we just talked about with the cold tolerant evergreen foliage. It doesn't quite last all the way through winter for me, but at least through New Year's, where I have something in containers that looks like it doesn't care about the cold. And there's been extended breeding using different species of this genus. Heuchera americana is used in breeding to get that silver overlay on foliage. And those leaves need to be in shade to prevent scorching. Then there's Heuchera cylindrica, which is tolerant of harsh winds and temperature extremes. Heuchera micrantha comes from mountainous areas and can handle cold and dry. Heuchera sanguinica is used for flower color. Some of them have really beautiful, kind of tall spikes of little bell-shaped flowers, and some heucheras have kind of boring flowers that you might want to pinch off. Then Heuchera villosa is one that's used in breeding the most. You get big leaf size from breeding with that one, and it adapts well to dry shade. And the foliage does particularly well in winter. But yeah, if you have bunny problems, I recommend growing them in pots. This winter, we actually had so much rain, and then the rain froze, and my pots with heucheras actually formed a layer of ice on top. And the heuchera was growing through the ice, and the leaves were still alive, and I was like, what? And they survived, which is incredible to me. So, big winner in my books. Another plant that, if you must replace flowers with leaves, it's fancy leaf pelargoniums, which are pretty amazing. I have one called Vancouver Centennial, and that's is a stellar variety that has kind of has maple leaf looking leaves actually. And I have one, this is my favorite. It's called Velma Cox, also known as Mrs. Henry Cox. It actually has bright coral in the leaves that is just unbelievable that there's foliage that is that color. It has a kind of a golden border. And then it has kind of a plummy zone that gets the coral areas around it. And then the inside is green. Then there's one that I have that's Mrs. Pollock that has a sort of green and yellow and white margins. It's also very pretty.
Oh man, that wonderful plum center color. I just posted a photo of it. That one looks unreal.
I love Velma Cox. I also love my husband, but I love Velma Cox. It's incredible. You do want to keep those in a good amount of sun because Velma Cox, for one, in shade, she is just a regular variegated white and green. And then if you put it into more sun, those leaves will drop off and it will grow new leaves. Another cool plant that I would be, I think, remiss not to mention is tricolor beech. I'm scared to try to pronounce the botanical name. Fagus? No. Sylvatica purpurea tricolor. It's a tree that grows to about 30 feet tall and 20 feet wide and is hardy in zones 4 through 7. And the leaves in the spring emerge purple with a kind of a pinky magenta margin. So beautiful. I don't have room for it, but I just wanted to pay my respects to it.
Oh my god. Oh, do you know what hardiness that one grows in?
4, I believe.
Oh, I could make that work, kind of. I'd be pretty sad, but I could make it work.
There are also some really cool cercis that have amazing variegation on them. But, I gotta stop at some point. But there are so many colorful leaves out there.
You don't actually have to stop. Like, that's the cool thing about plants. You could just keep buying more.
That's not actually correct.
I have to stop talking because this episode is getting really long. But thank you.
Once you hit a point where he can't tell how many plants you have, you can just keep purchasing them. And the thing is, he'll never notice the additional plants.
Unless he checks the credit card statement.
That's why you go to plant swaps.
Buy with money, like just cash. Burn the receipts.
This is fabulous. I love this reverse Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, give you a sad panda emoji.
We're a different kind of support group.
All right, moving on to favorite foliage combinations.
I feel like for me this changes all the time depending on what I'm seeing.
Yeah, same.
But recently I was working in this garden and it had an established barberry that was like the yellow cultivars. So this like really pale glowing yellow. It just like it's ridiculous shrub that doesn't quite look real. And then underneath that was growing black mondo grass. So you had the contrast of the flower of the color of the leaves, right? So like the super bright yellow, the super dark black. And then you also have the contrast between the round, tiny leaf shape and then the grass-like foliage. And that just looked really neat.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, I get to see a lot of fun combinations.
I'm thinking of more colorful foliage now, even though we've moved on. There's a birch called Susky Gold, I think. It's got yellow, tiny little yellow leaves. So cute. Your barberry made me think of it.
I could name more things, but there's so many colorful foliage. Like, there's just so many different types. And yeah, we should probably move on. Back to topic.
I don't think I have a favorite. Like, I don't think I have even a temporary favorite.
Oh, it's impossible. It's impossible. You just gotta pick a couple and talk about it.
even with grasses, there's some really beautiful grasses out there that have like a copper bronze color, and that can pair well with a bunch of things. Or, you know, just all the different variations and all the different kind of, you know, like different combos you can have. It's just too big of a list for me to even pick a top 10. I don't think I ever could.
Yep.
I really love playing with containers, foliage containers. It is just sort of such a creative, fun activity. I love it.
I gotta know, because I feel like this kind of a question of like favorite color combos is something that like you've got on lock. Whereas I can't do it. I feel like you've got this on lock.
My favorite container this year is actually very, very subdued. It has a ton of plants in it. I've got Plectranthus lemon twist that I talked about. I've got Oreganum vulgare aurum, which is golden oregano, which is sort of like this tiny leaf spiller yellow foliage plant that picks up on the chartreuse in the Plectranthus. I've also got a Pelargonium skeleton rose that I mentioned before in there that has a totally different texture. Helichrysum metallicum, which I mentioned before, and Helichrysum liquor splash. And altogether, it's sort of this silver-green chartreuse combination that I am quite fond of.
Yeah, you had me on everything except the last listed color.
Chartreuse. I don't know what you have against chartreuse. I was actually thinking of making the weeder color on the server chartreuse, but I'm worried about upsetting you.
You demod me.
No. And another combination, which was inspired by Gojo Sensei on the server, I've got a long ago lost name tag variety of heuchera that's purple with Tradescantia zebrina. And I'm enjoying that one.
Oh, yeah, that's a gooder. That one's also super hard to kill. That
up my alley.
I gotta say, I know someone who like threw some into a Tupperware bucket that was like a quarter full of rainwater, didn't give it fertilizer, didn't give it soil. The plant was like partially submerged for a summer, and it grew. So like that thing, you can't get rid of it. It's awesome.
Sounds good to me. I think that's another one you can put next to a window without a grow light.
Yes.
But with a grow light, it gets mega purple, which is also kind of cool. There we go, folks. I think it might be a good idea to reserve the audience questions for next episode. What do you think?
Yeah, we went a little bit too long.
Way over what we usually go over.
Yeah.
That is true.
I think because this was just basically like a show and tell of cool plants. I think what we could do is we could always just do like another episode soon and go over the
That's
BBQ
what I was
questions.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like this week?
I shouldn't say let's do it, Zappy. What's your schedule like?
No, let's just assume.
We can figure it out, but
Let's schedule it.
Yes. Let's have your people call my people.
Maybe I will have some solution for my audio issues as well, so we can bring back the live music that we've been accustomed
and a pre-show dance party.
Yeah.
Oomph. All right, you guys. Thank you so much, Passi and Zappy, for joining us. This was really fun, and the time just flew by. And somehow we only mentioned hosta once. Very impressive. And did we even talk about coleus?
I mentioned them.
Oh.
Yeah? Okay.
I mentioned them, but then I was like, I'm actually going to talk about something else because I feel like everyone talks about coleus. So they were mentioned.
I steered this episode to be about begonias, I feel like, and I'm not upset with that.
No, begonias is a valid 2.5 hour topic in itself, at least.
I'm going to make a terrarium and put a bunch of fancy begonias in there, and are just ridiculous.
Oh, yes. Do it. Make a video of it, too. I want to see it.
It'll be a while, because I don't have space for a terrarium right now, but I want to do it.
Do you really need that roommate?
That roommate moved out. There's only my husband left, so...
Oh, that means a plant room opened up.
I'm actually almost done setting up my terrarium. Once I'm done doing that,
Ooh.
yeah. I'm gonna put one of those gimpy plants inside of there. And that way it can be locked up and away from me.
Art.
I thought they were trees.
Yeah, they do grow pretty big pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah, see, but that's a problem for future, Passi.
Can you even import them?
No, I have seeds.
Okay. Oh.
I won't tell you how I got the seeds, but I got the seeds.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Wow.
I got them legally.
Good.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you got them from your gimpy guy, right?
Yeah, obviously.
I mean,
where else would you get the seeds for it?
Yeah.
Wow.
No question.
Oh my god.
Doesn't everybody have a gimpy guy?
Yeah.
What happens with the gimpy guy stays with the gimpy guy.
Yeah, that's the basic rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. We can't be giving out that information over there like this.
All right, you guys, we'll do the BBQ, the big burning question part, and the fun game at the end. Still coming. Have some riddles for you guys. We'll do that next time. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye.
Cool.
Bye.
Catch you guys later.